My name is Jean, and I am 58 years old. I spent most of my life as a teacher in Boston, where I raised my son Tyler all on my own. We were always so close until he met Amanda 3 years ago. Everything changed after that. Still, when his wedding day arrived, I got all dressed up and drove to the beautiful venue with hope in my heart. I never expected what happened next at the reception desk. "I am sorry, ma'am. Your name is not on the guest list." If you're watching this from a place where family means everything, hit that like button and subscribe. Stay with me as I reveal what happened next when I confronted my own son on his wedding day. Being a single mom was never part of my plan, but when Tyler was just 5 years old, my husband decided family life wasn't for him and walked out. It was just Tyler and me against the world after that. I took on extra tutoring jobs after school and worked weekends at a local bookstore to make sure Tyler never felt the absence of his father in terms of opportunities or experiences. Despite the financial struggles, I made sure Tyler had everything he needed. I still remember the pride on his face when he made the baseball team in middle school. I rearranged my entire work schedule to attend every single game, cheering from the bleachers until I lost my voice. Our Sunday pancake breakfasts became sacred tradition. Tyler would help mix the batter while I told him stories about my own childhood. As he grew older, he started making the pancakes himself, always setting aside the first perfectly golden one for me. "For the best mom in the world," he would say with that bright smile that could light up the darkest room. We went fishing every summer at Lake Winnipesaukee. Neither of us was particularly good at catching anything but those quiet mornings on the lake, watching the sunrise as we talked about life school, and his dreams were priceless. Tyler would confide in me about everything from school crushes to his deepest fears. Tyler was such a thoughtful child. For Mother's Day when he was 12, he saved his allowance for months to buy me a silver bracelet with a heart charm. "Because you have the biggest heart, Mom," he explained as he fastened it around my wrist with clumsy fingers. I still wear that bracelet every day. Middle school brought challenges when Tyler was bullied for being the kid without a dad. I found him crying in his room one day after school. I sat beside him, held him close, and told him, "You have something better than what those other kids have. You have a mom who would move mountains for you." We worked through it together, finding strength in our small but mighty family of two. His first real heartbreak happened in high school. Tanya Jenkins, his girlfriend of 6 months, broke up with him right before prom. I found him sitting on the porch swing, looking devastated. I sat with him for hours that night, listening as he poured out his heart. The next day, I took a personal day off work, and we drove to the coast, where we spent the day skipping stones and talking about resilience. When Tyler graduated high school as valedictorian, I couldn't contain my pride. I had worked 3 jobs that final year to ensure he could attend the college of his choice without worrying about loans. Watching him give that graduation speech, talking about perseverance and gratitude, I knew every sacrifice had been worth it. College was a financial strain, but I never let Tyler know how much I struggled to make those tuition payments. I moved to a smaller apartment, gave up my car, and walked to work for 2 years to make sure he could focus on his studies without worrying about money. When he graduated with honors in finance, it felt like we both had earned that degree. Tyler landed a job at a prestigious financial firm right after college. I will never forget the day he called me, voice brimming with excitement, to tell me about the offer. The starting salary was more than I had ever made as a teacher, and I felt such profound satisfaction knowing he would never face the financial insecurity that had defined so much of our lives. Even as his career took off, we maintained our close bond. He would come over every Wednesday for dinner, bringing groceries despite my protests. "Let me take care of you for once, Mom," he would insist. We spent holidays together, kept our fishing tradition alive, and he always called me first with any news, good or bad. When Tyler bought his first home at 28, a charming colonial not far from where he grew up, I helped him paint every room. We spent weekends at flea markets finding unique pieces to make the house feel like home. "I wanted to feel as warm as our home always did," he told me, and those words meant everything. Everything changed when Tyler met Amanda at a financial technology conference in New York. He called me that same night, something he had never done about a woman before. "Mom, I met someone incredible today." He said, his voice different somehow. I was happy for him, of course, but something in his tone gave me pause, a subtle shift I couldn't quite identify. 3 weeks later, Tyler brought Amanda to dinner at my home. She was stunningly beautiful, with perfectly highlighted blonde hair and designer clothes that made my living room feel suddenly shabby. She air-kissed my cheek and presented me with an expensive bottle of wine. "Tyler told me you probably drink Chardonnay, but I brought a Pinot Noir because, well, everyone with taste prefers it," she said with a laugh that didn't reach her eyes. I learned that Amanda came from a family that owned multiple real estate developments across the Northeast. She had attended an Ivy League university and worked as an investment banker. Throughout dinner, she dominated the conversation with stories about luxury vacations and celebrity encounters. Whenever Tyler tried to share one of our family stories, she would subtly redirect the conversation. "Your home is so quaint," Amanda commented, running her finger along my bookshelf. "Very teacher chic." The word quaint felt like a dagger, but I smiled and thanked her, not wanting to make Tyler uncomfortable. I noticed changes in Tyler almost immediately. Our Wednesday dinners became less frequent. "Amanda has reservations at this exclusive restaurant," or "we have tickets to a show that night," became regular excuses. When he did visit, he seemed distracted, checking his phone constantly. I tried to build a relationship with Amanda, inviting her for lunch, sending thoughtful cards, even asking for her input on my wardrobe when I needed something new for a school function. "You could really use a style upgrade," she told me bluntly when I asked, "but I am not sure designer labels would make sense for someone in your position." The first major conflict happened at Thanksgiving. I had spent days preparing all of Tyler's favorites. Amanda took one bite of my sweet potato casserole and asked loudly, "Is this canned? My mother makes hers fresh with organic sweet potatoes and imported maple syrup." Tyler looked uncomfortable, but said nothing as I explained that yes, this was the same recipe his grandmother had used, made with canned sweet potatoes and brown sugar. Throughout the meal, Amanda critiqued everything from my dinnerware, so retro, to my living room furniture. "Have you considered updating to something from this century?" When I brought out the pumpkin pie, Amanda announced she didn't eat desserts with processed sugar and pulled a protein bar from her purse. Tyler, who had always loved my pumpkin pie, declined a slice that day. After that, Tyler began taking Amanda's side in every disagreement, no matter how small. When I mentioned how I missed our fishing trips, Amanda interjected, "Tyler has outgrown that kind of thing. We go sailing with my family on their yacht now." Tyler nodded in agreement, as if our cherished tradition had suddenly become childish. I watched with growing concern as Amanda seemed to control more and more aspects of Tyler's life. He traded his comfortable style for expensive suits she selected. He dropped his longtime friends in favor of her social circle. He even changed his haircut and started using phrases I had never heard from him before. It was as if my son was being slowly erased. Only 8 months after they met, Tyler announced they were engaged. He didn't tell me first. I found out when he posted the news on social media, complete with photos of an enormous diamond ring and Amanda's perfectly manicured hand. When I called to congratulate him, Amanda answered his phone. "We're too busy celebrating with important people right now," she said. "Tyler will call you back later." He did call 3 days later, sounding exhausted, but claiming to be happier than ever. I had such mixed feelings about the engagement. I wanted Tyler to be happy, but everything inside me screamed that Amanda was wrong for him. Still, I put on a smile and offered my congratulations when they finally found time in their busy schedule to have dinner with me. That dinner to discuss wedding plans was uncomfortable from start to finish. They had already selected a venue, a luxurious estate, that cost more than my annual salary for a single day's rental. "My parents are handling most of the expenses," Amanda explained. "They want their only daughter to have the perfect day." When I offered to help with the planning, Amanda laughed. "That's sweet, Jean, but we have a professional wedding planner who handles celebrities and socialites. This is going to be the social event of the season, so everything needs to be perfect." The way she emphasized perfect made it clear my help wasn't considered up to standard. By the time they left, I felt like a stranger in my son's life, rather than the woman who had raised him. As Tyler hugged me goodbye, I whispered, "Are you happy, sweetheart?" For just a moment, I saw a flicker of the old Tyler in his eyes, but then Amanda called from the car, and his expression shuddered. "Of course I am, Mom. Amanda knows what's best." As the wedding planning progressed, I found myself increasingly sidelined. I wasn't consulted about anything, not even small details that traditionally involved the mother of the groom. I learned about the color scheme, the flowers, and even the date from mutual friends rather than from Tyler or Amanda. One Saturday, I called Tyler to see if he wanted to grab lunch. "Sorry, Mom, we are meeting with the caterer," he said, sounding rushed. I asked if I could join them, thinking it might be nice to be included in some aspect of the planning. There was a muffled conversation, and then Tyler returned to the phone. "Amanda says it's better if you don't come. Too many opinions complicate things." I tried to have a heart-to-heart with Tyler about feeling excluded. I invited him over and made his favorite lasagna. "Honey, I feel like I am being pushed out of your life," I said gently. "I understand that Amanda is your priority now, but I miss being part of the important moments." Tyler looked uncomfortable and defensive. "You're overreacting, Mom. Amanda is just very specific about what she wants for the wedding. Her parents are paying for everything, so they get to make the decisions." When I pointed out that traditionally the mother of the groom has certain responsibilities, he snapped, "This isn't the 1950s, Mom. Modern weddings don't follow those outdated rules." Meanwhile, Amanda's parents, the Bennetts, seemed to be taking over every aspect of the wedding. They were mentioned in every conversation, always presented as the ultimate authorities on taste and propriety. "Mr. Bennett thinks a morning ceremony would be gauche," or "Mrs. Bennett has connections with the top florist in the city." I had met them only once at an awkward dinner where they spoke about their vacation homes and country club memberships while barely acknowledging my presence. I wanted to contribute financially to the wedding, even if it was in a small way. I had saved $3,000, nearly emptying my rainy day fund. I offered it to Tyler over the phone. "That's thoughtful, Mom, but really not necessary," he said. "The Bennetts have it covered." 2 days later, Amanda called me. "Jean, that money you offered, if you still want to contribute, you could pay for the welcome bags for out-of-town guests." It wasn't even enough to cover half the cost, as she quickly informed me. When I saw photos of the extravagant 8-tier wedding cake on the wedding planner's social media page, I commented that it seemed excessive for the 150 guests they had mentioned. This innocent observation sparked an argument when Amanda called me furious. "The guest list is now 325, not that it's any of your business," she snapped. "And the cake is a statement piece, not just dessert. Not everything needs to be practical and boring." Tyler called me later that day. "Mom, you need to stop criticizing our wedding choices. Amanda is really upset." When I tried to explain I wasn't criticizing, just commenting, he cut me off. "Just try to be happy for us, okay? If you can't say something supportive, maybe don't say anything at all." The son who once valued my opinion above all others now dismissed it completely. As the months passed, Tyler became increasingly distant and defensive. Our weekly dinners had dwindled to monthly brief coffees, always with him checking the time throughout. He no longer shared details of his life or asked about mine. Every conversation circled back to the wedding, but only in the most superficial ways, never including me in any meaningful decisions. I wasn't invited to the engagement party, which I discovered had happened when photos appeared online. "It was just for close friends," Tyler explained when I called him hurt. In the background, I could hear Amanda say, "And my family who actually matter." Tyler didn't contradict her. The bridal shower was organized by Amanda's sorority sisters and mother. I wasn't invited to that either, nor was I asked to participate in the planning. "It's not traditional for the groom's mother to be involved," Amanda told me when I inquired. Later I learned from a mutual friend that several mothers of groomsmen had been included. 2 months before the wedding, I still hadn't received an invitation. Friends and neighbors began asking about the big day, and I found myself making vague comments too embarrassed to admit I knew almost nothing about my only son's wedding. I checked the mail anxiously every day, telling myself there must be some delay with the invitations. I finally saw wedding invitation photos posted on social media. They were elaborate foil-stamped creations with multiple inserts and custom wax seals. Everyone was commenting how beautiful they were. I waited another week, then finally called Tyler. "Honey, I haven't received my invitation yet," I said, trying to keep my voice light. "I want to make sure I have all the details correct for my outfit and hotel arrangements." There was a pause, then Tyler said, "Oh, it must have gotten lost in the mail. Don't worry about it, Mom. The ceremony is at 4 at the Bellevue Estate. Just show up a little early." His casual response was reassuring, but something felt off. Still, I pushed my concerns aside. This was my son's wedding day, and I was determined to be positive and supportive despite everything. The week before the wedding, I called Tyler to confirm final details. He sounded normal, even a bit warmer than he had in recent months. We chatted about the weather forecast for the wedding day, perfect sunny skies predicted, and his honeymoon plans 2 weeks in the Maldives. He even asked if I was excited about the wedding, which gave me hope that perhaps things were improving. "Of course I am, sweetheart. I can't wait to see you get married," I told him sincerely. As we ended the call, he said, "See you at the wedding, Mom," which further reassured me that everything was on track. Yet as the wedding day approached, I couldn't shake a growing anxiety. Why hadn't I received a formal invitation? Why hadn't I been included in the rehearsal dinner plans? I pushed these worries aside, focusing instead on being the supportive mother I had always been. The morning of Tyler's wedding arrived with perfect blue skies just as predicted. I had spent weeks searching for the right outfit, finally settling on an elegant navy blue dress with a matching jacket. I wanted to look sophisticated without overshadowing the bride or mother of the bride. I even splurged on having my hair professionally styled, something I rarely did. I had wrapped their gift carefully, a family heirloom pocket watch that had belonged to my grandfather, along with a check that represented a significant portion of my savings. In a card I had written about how proud I was of the man Tyler had become and how I would always be there for him no matter what. As I drove to Bellevue Estate, an exclusive venue an hour outside of Boston, I felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness. The estate was even more impressive than I had imagined, with manicured gardens and a grand manor house that looked like something from a historical film. I parked my 10-year-old sedan between luxury cars and walked toward the elegant entrance, smoothing my dress and taking deep breaths to calm my nerves. The reception desk was set up in the grand foyer, staffed by 2 young women in matching black outfits. They smiled professionally as I approached. "Hello? I am Jean Carter, mother of the groom," I said proudly. The first woman's smile faltered slightly as she checked her tablet. She frowned and scrolled through the list again. "I'm sorry, could you spell your last name for me?" "Carter." I replied, a faint uneasiness beginning to grow. She exchanged a glance with her colleague, who also checked the list on her own tablet. "I'm sorry, ma'am, but I don't see your name on the guest list," the second woman said, her voice dropping slightly. "There must be a mistake," I said, maintaining my smile despite the knot forming in my stomach. "I'm Tyler Carter's mother. Perhaps I'm listed under Jean Simpson." I offered my maiden name as a possibility. Both women checked again, looking increasingly uncomfortable. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Carter, but you're not on the list under either name," the first woman said. "Let me check with the wedding coordinator." As she stepped away to make a phone call, I became acutely aware of the other guests arriving behind me, dressed in designer clothes and carrying beautifully wrapped gifts. I could feel their curious stares as I stood there waiting and increasingly embarrassed. After what felt like an eternity, the woman returned. "I've spoken with the coordinator, and she confirmed that you are not on the approved guest list. I'm very sorry for any confusion." My face burning with humiliation, I stepped aside to let other guests check in. I fumbled for my phone and sent Tyler a text. "There seems to be a problem at the reception desk. They say I'm not on the guest list. Can you help?" I waited in the grand lobby, watching as elegantly dressed guests streamed past me. Some gave me curious glances, others avoided eye contact entirely. 15 minutes passed, then 30. Tyler didn't respond to my text. I sent another, "Tyler, please, this is embarrassing. Where are you?" Nearly 45 minutes after my arrival, I spotted him across the lobby surrounded by groomsmen in matching tuxedos. They were laughing about something, champagne glasses in hand. I made my way over, clutching my gift and purse like shields. "Tyler," I called softly as I approached. He turned and the smile dropped from his face. The other groomsmen fell silent, exchanging uncomfortable glances. "Mom, what are you doing here?" His voice was cold, unfamiliar. "There seems to be some confusion at the reception desk," I explained, keeping my voice steady. "They say my name isn't on the guest list." Tyler glanced around, then took my elbow and steered me toward a quiet corner. "There's no confusion, Mom," he said flatly. "Did you really think you'd be invited?" The words hit me like a physical blow. "What?" "But when we spoke last week, you said, 'See you at the wedding.'" "I was being polite," he said, not meeting my eyes. "Amanda and I decided it would be better if you weren't here. Her parents think it's inappropriate to have divorced parents at the wedding when they're hosting. It creates an awkward dynamic." "Divorced?" I stammered. "Tyler, your father left 23 years ago. I raised you alone. I'm your only parent." "And that's part of the problem," he said, lowering his voice. "This is a sophisticated event, Mom. Amanda's family has a certain image to maintain. A single mother teacher doesn't exactly fit with the narrative." Before I could respond, Amanda appeared radiant in a designer gown that probably cost more than my car. "Is there a problem?" she asked, her voice honeyed, but her eyes cold. "My mother showed up uninvited," Tyler explained, as if I were a stranger who had crashed their event. Amanda's perfectly made-up face hardened. "Jean, this is awkward. We were very clear about the guest list with the venue security. You're creating a scene." "I wasn't aware I wasn't invited," I said, fighting to keep my voice from breaking. "No one told me that." "It should have been obvious," Amanda replied. "You didn't receive an invitation, did you?" "Most people understand what that means." She glanced over my shoulder. "If you don't leave willingly, we'll have to involve security. We can't have the day disrupted." I looked at my son, searching for any sign of the boy I had raised, the one who made me pancakes and saved for months to buy me a bracelet. There was nothing familiar in his face now. With as much dignity as I could muster, I straightened my shoulders and said, "I understood perfectly." I turned to leave, then paused to place the wrapped gift on a nearby table. "This belongs to the Carter family. I had hoped it would stay that way." As I walked back through the lobby, past the curious stares and whispered comments, I held my head high. It wasn't until I reached my car that the first tears fell hot and fast down my cheeks. 23 years of sacrifice and love dismissed in a moment for the sake of appearances. I sat in my car in the parking lot, hands shaking so badly I couldn't insert the key into the ignition. The beautiful day now seemed to mock my pain, sunshine pouring through the windshield as I sobbed. How had it come to this? How had my sweet boy turned into someone who could look at his own mother with such cold dismissal? As I cried, memories flooded back so vivid they were almost tangible. Tyler at 7, rushing home from school to show me an A on his math test. Tyler at 12, using his own money to buy medicine when I had the flu. Tyler at 17, turning down a party to stay home and watch old movies with me on my birthday. I had sacrificed everything for him. I gave up career advancements that would have required travel. I postponed dating until he was in college, putting his emotional security above my own loneliness. I worked summers and weekends to afford his baseball camps and college application fees. Not because I had to, but because I loved him more than anything in this world. And now, on what should have been one of the most important days of our lives, I was sitting in a parking lot, uninvited and unwelcome. Gradually, my sobs subsided, replaced by a strange clarity. This wasn't really about me at all. This was about Amanda and the power she wielded over my son. And perhaps it was also about Tyler, and whatever emptiness inside him made him so susceptible to her influence. It didn't excuse his behavior, but it helped me understand it. I looked at myself in the rearview mirror. My carefully applied makeup was smeared, my professionally styled hair now disheveled. But beneath the mess, I was still Jean Carter, still the woman who had faced every challenge life had thrown at her with courage and grace. This would be no different. I had a change of clothes in the trunk, a simple sundress I'd packed in case the weather was warmer than expected. I retrieved it and changed in the car, wiped away the ruined makeup, and combed my hair into a simple, neat style. I looked different than I had when I arrived, less formal, but somehow more authentic. Instead of driving home, I found myself walking to a small park adjacent to the estate grounds. I needed air and space to think. As I sat on a bench overlooking a small pond, I heard voices from nearby. 2 young women in matching lavender dresses, obviously bridesmaids, were smoking just around the bend of the path. "Can you believe the drama already?" one said to the other. "Tyler's mom showing up uninvited. So awkward." "Amanda has been planning this for months," the second bridesmaid replied. She told me back in January that she was going to make sure Jean wasn't included. She said Tyler's mom was too middle class for the wedding she envisioned. Did Tyler know? The first girl asked. From what Mandy said, he argued about it at first, but she threatened to call off the wedding. You know how she is. She always gets her way. Still, it's his mother. That's cold even for Amanda. The worst part is that Amanda made sure all her distant cousins and her parents' business associates were invited, people Tyler has never even met. 300 guests, and no room for his own mother. Their voices faded as they headed back toward the venue. I sat frozen on the bench processing this new information. It hadn't been a mutual decision, at least not initially. Tyler had objected to excluding me, which meant some small part of him still cared, still recognized the wrongness of this situation. It would have been easy to let anger consume me then, to storm back to the venue and confront Amanda with what I had learned. But what would that accomplish? It would only reinforce the image Amanda had created of me as unsophisticated and emotional. It would give her the upper hand and possibly push Tyler even further away. No, if Amanda thought she could break my spirit or turn me into someone bitter and hateful, she was sorely mistaken. I had faced worse challenges and emerged stronger. This would be no different. With newfound determination, I walked back to the estate. This time I avoided the main entrance instead, finding a service entrance where catering staff were bringing in supplies. During a shift change when the door was propped open and the security guard was distracted, I slipped inside, keeping my head down and walking purposefully, as if I belonged there. The ceremony was set to begin soon. I could hear string music playing as guests were seated in the estate's grand ballroom. Instead of trying to enter the main space, I found a small alcove at the back of the room, partially hidden by decorative curtains, but with a clear view of the altar where Tyler would soon be standing. As I settled into my hiding spot, I knew what I was doing was unconventional. But after 23 years of being there for every important moment in Tyler's life, I couldn't bear to miss this one, even if he thought he didn't want me there. I would witness my son's wedding, and I would do so with love in my heart, despite everything. The string quartet shifted to the traditional wedding march, and everyone rose as Amanda appeared at the entrance, a vision in white lace and crystals on her father's arm. I could only see Tyler from the back standing stiffly at the altar, but even from that angle, I could tell he was nervous. His best man, his college roommate Jordan, patted his shoulder reassuringly. Amanda's walk down the aisle seemed deliberately slow each step a performance. Her smile was triumphant rather than joyful, her eyes scanning the crowd as if taking inventory of the influential guests she had gathered. When she reached Tyler, she adjusted his boutonniere before taking his hands, a subtle gesture of control that spoke volumes. The minister welcomed everyone and began speaking about love and commitment. From my hidden alcove, I listened as he talked about marriage being the ultimate bond, stronger than any other relationship in life. Amanda nodded emphatically at this point, squeezing Tyler's hands. Marriage requires sacrifice and compromise, the minister continued. It means putting each other first above all others. Again, Amanda nodded, casting a significant glance at Tyler. I found myself thinking about the true nature of love. Real love doesn't demand that you cut off other meaningful relationships. Real love expands your heart, making room for more connections, more joy, more sharing of life's journey. What Amanda was doing wasn't love, it was possession. The ceremony proceeded to the traditional question, if anyone can show just cause why this couple cannot lawfully be joined together in matrimony, let them speak now or forever hold their peace. In movies, this is the moment for dramatic interruptions. In real life, it passed in silence. But something shifted inside me. I had come here thinking I would merely observe a ghost at my own son's wedding. Now I realized I had something important to contribute, not as an objection to the marriage, but as a reminder of what true love actually means. As the minister prepared to continue, I stepped out from my hiding place. A collective gasp rippled through the assembled guests. Amanda's face contorted in shock and fury. Tyler turned his eyes widening as he saw me standing there. What is the meaning of this? Amanda's father stood up from the front row. Security. I raised my hand calmly. I'm not here to object or cause a scene. I'm here as a mother who loves her son unconditionally. My voice was steady, carrying clearly through the ballroom. "This is outrageous," Amanda hissed, her carefully cultivated image cracking. "Have her removed immediately." But I continued addressing not just Tyler, but everyone present. I was told I didn't belong here today, that I wasn't part of the narrative this wedding was meant to portray. But love isn't about narratives or appearances. It's about showing up even when it's difficult. It's about forgiveness and seeing the best in each other. I reached into my purse and pulled out a small velvet box, the gift I had brought earlier. "This pocket watch belonged to your great-grandfather, Tyler. He carried it through 2 wars and never lost it because it connected him to the people he loved. I brought it today to remind you that no matter what happens in life, you are connected to a history of love that nothing can erase." Tyler stared at the box, his expression a complex mix of emotions. For a moment, the confident cold man of earlier was gone, replaced by glimpses of the boy I had raised, Mrs. "Bennett, may I addressed Amanda's mother, directly approaching to hand her the box, rather than walking all the way to the altar. It was a deliberate choice, a sign of respect for their position, while still delivering my message. "Please make sure Tyler gets this. It belongs to him regardless of today's outcome." Amanda was practically vibrating with rage. "Security! Get this woman out of here now!" 2 security guards approached, but before they reached me, a voice called out from the guests. "Wait!" It was Jordan Tyler's best man and oldest friend. "Let her finish." Another voice joined in. "She's his mother, for God's sake." This from Tyler's college professor, who had become a mentor to him. I smiled gently at Tyler, whose face had gone pale. "I will always love you unconditionally and without reservation. That's what real love is, Tyler. It doesn't demand perfection or compliance. It doesn't isolate you from others who care about you. It celebrates the connections that make your life richer." Amanda stepped forward, physically placing herself between Tyler and me. "This is my wedding day, and you are ruining it with your cheap sentimentality. Tyler doesn't want you here. Can't you understand that you're embarrassing yourself and him?" I looked past her to Tyler. "I'll leave now peacefully and with my head held high. I just wanted you to know that my door is always open no matter what. Love doesn't come with conditions or expiration dates." As I turned to leave, Tyler finally spoke. "Mom, wait." Amanda whirled to face him. "Tyler, don't you dare. We agreed about this." For the first time that day, perhaps for the first time in months, Tyler didn't immediately yield to her. "Just give me a minute, Amanda, please." The fact that he had to ask permission was telling, but at least he was asking. It was a small crack in Amanda's control, a tiny reassertion of his own will. Amanda's face flushed with anger. "If you go after her now in the middle of our ceremony, don't expect me to be waiting when you get back." The guests murmured uncomfortably. This was rapidly becoming exactly the scene Amanda had claimed she wanted to avoid by excluding me. Tyler looked torn, glancing between Amanda's furious face and my calm one. I made the decision easier for him. "It's okay, Tyler. This is your wedding day. We can talk another time." I moved toward the exit, dignity intact. As I reached the door, Amanda's voice rang out shrill and commanding. "Finish the ceremony now. I want her gone before we continue." I didn't look back as the security guards escorted me out, one of them whispering, "Sorry about this, ma'am. For what it's worth, I think you handled that with real class." Outside, I took a deep breath of fresh air, feeling strangely lighter than I had in months. I had spoken my truth with love and dignity. The rest was up to Tyler. The next few weeks were quiet. I didn't call or text Tyler, giving him space to process everything that had happened. I focused instead on rebuilding the parts of my life that I had neglected while worrying about him. I reconnected with old friends, joined a book club I had been putting off, and even signed up for a weekend painting retreat I had been interested in for years. A week after the wedding, I received unexpected texts from several wedding guests. Jordan wrote, "Your son is lucky to have you, even if he doesn't realize it right now." Tyler's mentor from college sent, "What you did took immense courage. Tyler has a lot to think about." Even one of Amanda's bridesmaids, the one I had overheard in the park, messaged me, "I don't know you, but I admired how you handled yourself. The rest of the wedding was pretty tense after you left." The most surprising visitor came 3 weeks after the wedding. Jordan showed up at my door with coffee and pastries. "Thought you might want an update," he said as I invited him in. We sat in my living room where Tyler had spent countless hours growing up. Jordan looked around, smiling at the photos of Tyler that still adorned the walls. "You know he talks about you all the time, or at least he used to." "What happened after I left?" I asked, both wanting and dreading to know. "It was awkward to say the least," Jordan replied. "Amanda had what can only be described as a meltdown. She was furious that security had let you in, that Tyler had spoken to you, that some guests seemed sympathetic to you. She wanted to start the ceremony over without any mention of what had happened." "Did they finish the wedding?" I asked. Jordan nodded. "They did, but it wasn't the fairy tale Amanda had envisioned. Tyler was distracted, stumbling over his vows. Amanda kept glaring at him. When the minister pronounced them husband and wife, there was this uncomfortable silence before people started clapping like everyone was thinking about what had happened rather than celebrating." "I never wanted to ruin their day," I said softly. "You didn't," Jordan assured me. "Amanda did that herself with her reaction. Look, I've kept my mouth shut for too long because Tyler seemed happy. But the truth is, none of his real friends like who he's become with her. He's lost himself trying to be who she wants him to be." "Have you spoken to him since the wedding?" "He's been distant. They went on their honeymoon right after 2 weeks in the Maldives. They just got back a few days ago. I tried to meet up with him, but Amanda had already scheduled a dinner with her friends that he couldn't miss." Jordan sighed. "I'm worried about him, Jean. This isn't healthy." After Jordan left, I felt both better and worse. Better knowing that some people had seen the truth of the situation, worse knowing that Tyler was still caught in Amanda's web of control. 2 months passed without a word from Tyler. I continued rebuilding my life, refusing to be defined by his rejection. I started volunteering at a literacy program for adults, finding purpose in helping others achieve their dreams. I reconnected with teaching colleagues and even went on a couple of casual dates with a kind widower I met at my book club. Then, on a rainy Sunday afternoon in October, there was a knock at my door. I opened it to find Tyler standing there soaking wet and looking utterly exhausted. "Mom," he said, his voice breaking, "can I come in?" I stepped aside without hesitation, grabbing a towel from the hall closet and handing it to him. "Dry off before you catch cold," I said, the maternal instinct as natural as breathing. Tyler took the towel, looking around the living room like a man returning from a long journey. "Everything looks the same," he said with wonder. "Some things don't change," I replied simply. "Would you like some tea? Or I could make hot chocolate like I used to when you came in from playing in the rain." A ghost of a smile crossed his face. "Hot chocolate would be amazing, actually." As I busied myself in the kitchen, I could hear Tyler moving around the living room, looking at photos, touching familiar objects. When I returned with 2 mugs of hot chocolate, topped with mini marshmallows, just as he had always liked, he was sitting on the couch, head in his hands. "I don't even know where to begin," he said as I set the mugs down. "I'm so sorry, Mom. So incredibly sorry." I sat beside him, not too close, giving him space. "I'm listening," I said gently. "The way I treated you at the wedding and before was unforgivable," he began. "I let Amanda convince me that establishing boundaries with you meant cutting you off completely. She said it was necessary for us to form our own family unit." "That's not what healthy boundaries look like," I observed. "I know that now." Tyler sighed. "After you showed up at the wedding, something changed. I couldn't stop thinking about what you said about love not coming with conditions. It made me realize how many conditions Amanda's love came with." "What happened on your honeymoon?" I asked. "It was beautiful but tense. Amanda was still angry about the wedding. She kept saying you had hijacked our special day. But I started noticing other things too. How the resort staff seemed afraid of her. How nothing was ever good enough, the room, the food, the service. She made 3 different people cry during our stay." "That must have been uncomfortable," I said, careful not to criticize Amanda directly. "It was eye-opening," Tyler admitted. "When we got back, things got worse. She wanted to cut off contact with Jordan and any friends who had shown support for you at the wedding. She started monitoring my calls and texts. Last week, she threw away the pocket watch you gave us because it didn't match our decor." I couldn't hide my shock at that. "Tyler, that watch was over 100 years old." I know. When I found out we had our biggest fight yet, I told her it was a family heirloom and irreplaceable. She said her family was my only family now, and the sooner I accepted that, the happier we'd be. He looked up at me, real pain in his eyes. That's when I realized what I'd done. I'd allowed her to isolate me from everyone who truly cared about me, especially you. Where is Amanda now? I asked. At her parents'. She gave me an ultimatum. Either commit to cutting you off permanently, or we're over. I packed a bag and left. He ran his hands through his hair, a gesture so familiar it made my heart ache. I don't know what happens next, Mom. I've made such a mess of everything. I wanted to wrap him in my arms like I had when he was small to tell him everything would be okay, but he wasn't a child anymore, and simple reassurances wouldn't fix this. You have some difficult decisions ahead, I said honestly, but whatever you decide, I'm here for you, not to tell you what to do or to say, I told you so, but to support you as you figure out what's best for your life. How can you even stand to look at me after how I treated you? He asked, voice breaking. Because I'm your mother, and my love doesn't come with conditions, I replied simply. It doesn't mean what happened didn't hurt, or that we don't have healing to do. It just means you're not alone in facing what comes next. Tyler's shoulders shook as he finally allowed himself to cry. I moved closer, then putting my arm around him as he leaned into me for the first time in years. The months that followed weren't easy. Tyler and Amanda separated, and the divorce proceedings were bitter. Amanda used every weapon in her arsenal to punish him for leaving, from threatening to ruin his professional reputation to turning mutual friends against him. Through it all, I was careful to offer support without saying, I told you so, or demonizing Amanda. This wasn't about being right. It was about helping my son heal. Tyler temporarily moved into my spare bedroom while looking for a new apartment. Having him home reminded me of his college days, but he was different now, more thoughtful and appreciative of the small things. He noticed when I did his laundry or made his favorite meals. Thank you, Mom, became a phrase I heard daily sometimes for things as simple as remembering how he liked his coffee. The divorce was finalized 6 months after the wedding. Amanda got most of the material possessions, which Tyler said was fine by him. I don't want anything that reminds me of that time, he explained. The day the papers were signed, I found him sitting on the porch swing, looking pensive but not devastated. Penny, for your thoughts, I asked, joining him. I was just thinking about everything I've learned, he replied. About love, about myself, about what really matters. He turned to me. I spent so much time chasing what I thought was success, the right connections, the right address, the right image. I completely lost sight of what actually made me happy. And what makes you happy, Tyler? I asked. He smiled a real smile that reached his eyes. Sunday pancakes, fishing at dawn, genuine conversations with people who accept me as I am, all the things I had before I met Amanda, actually. Those things are still available to you, I pointed out. I know. That's why I'm not sad today. I feel like I'm getting a second chance. Our relationship grew stronger in the year that followed, but it was different than before. I was careful not to slip back into the intensely close bond we had shared, recognizing that it might have contributed to his vulnerability to Amanda's manipulation. He needed to develop his own identity and support network, not just rely on me. I encouraged him to reconnect with old friends and pursue interests he had abandoned during his relationship with Amanda. He joined a community theater group, something he had enjoyed in college but given up because Amanda thought it was amateurish. He started volunteering at a youth center, mentoring kids from single-parent homes. Meanwhile, I continued building my own life. I expanded my volunteer work, took a part-time position, supervising student teachers at my old school, and even started dating more seriously. Tyler was supportive, telling me, "You deserve someone who appreciates how amazing you are, Mom." 1 year after the wedding that had nearly destroyed our relationship, Tyler and I established a new tradition. Once a month, we would have dinner and complete honesty hour where we could ask each other anything and expect a truthful answer. It was during one of these dinners that Tyler asked the question I had been expecting for months. Mom, how did you find the strength to show up at my wedding after what I did to you? I'm not sure I could have been that forgiving. I considered my answer carefully. It wasn't about forgiveness in that moment. It was about showing up for someone I love, even when it's difficult. Especially when it's difficult. Love isn't just a feeling, Tyler. It's a choice you make every day, sometimes every hour. I chose to love you through your worst moment because that's what real love does. I'm trying to learn from you, he said, to be the kind of person who loves without keeping score. You're already becoming that person, I assured him. Every time you choose compassion over resentment, every time you give without expecting anything in return, you're practicing that kind of love. Tyler reached across the table and squeezed my hand. I have a good teacher. The pain of being excluded from my son's wedding will always be part of my story, but it's no longer the defining chapter. In a strange way, losing my place at the wedding helped me find myself again, and it helped Tyler rediscover what truly matters. Our bond bent under tremendous pressure, but it didn't break. Instead, it transformed into something stronger, more resilient, and ultimately more genuine. What I learned from this painful experience is that true family bonds aren't defined by grand gestures or perfect moments captured for social media. They're built in the trenches of difficult conversations, in showing up when it would be easier to walk away, and in the courage to love without guarantees. Tyler and I both changed through this ordeal. I became more independent, less willing to tolerate disrespect, more confident in my own worth outside of my role as a mother. Tyler became more authentic, less susceptible to superficial values, more appreciative of genuine connections. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I had simply gone home that day, if I hadn't found the courage to return and speak my truth at the wedding. Would Tyler have eventually seen through Amanda's manipulation on his own? Would our relationship have been permanently severed? These questions have no answers, but I know that choosing love over bitterness was the right decision, regardless of the outcome. 6 months ago, Tyler met someone new, a kindergarten teacher named Sarah, who volunteers at the same youth center. She's nothing like Amanda, modest and kind, with a genuine laugh that lights up her eyes. The first time he brought her to dinner at my home, she helped clear the dishes without being asked, and asked to see Tyler's childhood photos. When I showed her the album, she said, "What a lucky boy to have a mom who documented all these moments." Tyler caught my eye over her shoulder and mouthed, "Thank you." Last weekend, Tyler and I went fishing at the lake where we used to go when he was a child. As the sun rose over the water, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold, he said, "You know what I've been thinking about lately? How freedom isn't about doing whatever you want. It's about being true to yourself, even when it's hard." "That's a profound insight," I replied. "I learned it from watching you, Mom," he said. "When you showed up at that wedding, you were the freest person in the room, even though you were the one being rejected. Everyone else was trapped by appearances and expectations, but you were just being authentically yourself." And his words brought tears to my eyes. "That might be the nicest thing anyone has ever said to me." "It's true," he insisted. "And I want you to know that while I'll always regret how I treated you, I'm grateful for the lesson you taught me. Real love gives freedom. It doesn't take it away." As we sat there, poles in the water, but not really caring if we caught anything, I felt a deep sense of peace. The journey that began with that devastating moment at the wedding reception desk had led us here to a relationship built on mutual respect rather than obligation or expectation. Sometimes the most painful rejections lead us to our most important revelations. Being removed from my son's wedding guest list forced both of us to examine what family truly means and what love actually looks like in practice. The wedding that was supposed to be perfect became instead a perfect lesson in authenticity and resilience. Have you ever had to stand up for yourself, even when it meant possibly losing someone you love? Or have you experienced the pain of family rejection only to find your way back to a stronger relationship? Share your story in the comments below. And if this resonated with you, please like and subscribe to hear more stories of healing and redemption. Remember, sometimes the most painful moments contain the seeds of our greatest growth. Thank you for listening, and may you always find the courage to love authentically, even when it's difficult.